Welcome to SVG TV News for Thursday, February 2nd, 2023. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. There's been a bit of a delay in the start of construction on the acute referral hospital at Annisville. On NBC Radio yesterday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said they were hoping that they could have started sometime June, July with shovels in the ground. However, the earliest they may be able to start the process is by October, November.
Because the World Bank, the design which was done by international consultants. They had another World Bank consultant doing the review. Well, it was reviewed, and then there's a review of the review, because it's a big project.
Yes.
And some suggestions have been made for all of them for the better. Increase the size of the laboratory, dealing with some areas with waste and so forth. But you will have to allow time for those redesigns, and then you then have to go towards a building contract to get a contractor to do the tendering for the contract. Remember, this is international tender. It's World Bank money.
Yes.
You see what I mean?
Yes, yes.
And then we have to reconcile some internal challenges between, remember, it's co-financed by the government, World Bank, and the OFID, the OPEC Fund for International Development.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is what I'm going to try and resolve with this conversation with the World Bank at a high level. Not the highest level yet. I may go there if that is required. But at a high level,
yes.
On Thursday in a Zoom meeting.
On the port modernization project, a proposal was reportedly put forward by the contractor Aecon to dredge the seabed to obtain the material needed to fill in at Rose Place. But on radio yesterday, PM Gonsalves said before this can be done, there are a number of environmental issues that must be considered.
Things concerning with what may happen in relation to sea erosion, let's say towards the Brighton end, what would be the impact towards the city fence at Argyle, international. I've seen stuff which have been written, and I'm reading everything.
Yes.
But I will bring to bear my judgment dealing with all of these matters. You see where I'm coming from?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
And if we are not satisfied, and they have to bring the material from elsewhere. If we're not satisfied on all the questions and they have to bring the materials from elsewhere, it may lend the time of the project. It may.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
But, you know, Johnny P., I've been around this thing for a long time, and I've had many, many reports that I've had to digest and to get expert advice. So, though I'm not an expert in the area, you know, when you're at it a long time, you develop an acuity of judgment. Much better than some persons, I would wager, who doesn't have the experience in dealing with these things and with all the sites, all the various sites. So that's a significant issue which is to be resolved because the project is vital. Clearly, I'm talking with the port project.
Small island developing states such as St. Vincent and the Grenadines is one of many countries feeling the adverse effects of climate change due to droughts, floods, rising seas and other disasters that are attributed to climate change. The United Nations Climate Conference of Parties COP27 in November last year agreed to establish a loss and damage fund, particularly for nations most vulnerable to climate crisis. Following the announcement, Vincentian climate scientist Andrew Simmons, in an interview with SVG TV News, said that he welcomed the fund, which was previously thrown out when he attended COP in 2015. He now urges the government to push to get support from the fund.
COP27, 27 years after that it was agreed and accepted, the critical issue now, where's the money coming from? So I want to encourage our governments in St. Vincent to put the pressure on the United Nations and these various, when they go to these international meetings, so that they can work very fast to create the monies that we need.
Simmons has been part of a geographical information system mapping in climate change disaster-prone areas. He said that it is needed as it will assist NEMO to plan better.
So now we're trying to continue to provide these new layers of maps to ensure that when agencies like NEMO going out to the work, that these maps would be available. And these maps are the data being collected by the people from the communities, and they are more informed in terms of the issues that are affecting their community. How do we address these issues? What are the things that we can do to adapt? Because we can't run out of St. Vincent because we don't have the space. So how do we live with the climate change, the issues that are affecting us, and in terms of moving forward?
Commenting on the UN's Lost and Damaged Fund on the radio yesterday, PM Gonzalez said that he is happy SVG is also part of CELAC's disaster fund, as the UN's fund is still empty.
You notice we're talking about the disaster fund in CELAC. All the years they're talking about under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Conference of Parties, the COP. You know, they set up fund, but no money in it. A fund without money in it is an oxymoron.
Right.
A fund without money is a fund, F-U-N. So we can then go to the international community and say, listen, and I want, before we go to Brussels, to go to Spain, sorry, where we're going to have the European Union CELAC meeting. Say we have a fund, you know. But there are several important items on the agenda, and you'll hear more about them.
PM Gonzalez has been vocal on the impacts of climate change on small island developing states, brought on by high percentage of greenhouse gas emissions by developed countries. And a consultation to update the St. Vincent and the Grenadines comprehensive disaster policy funded by the World Bank through its Canada Caribbean Resilience Facility is being held this week with a number of local stakeholders. The consultation commenced on Monday at the NIS conference room. Addressing the opening ceremony, Director of the National Emergency Management Organization NEMO, Michelle Forbes, noted that the policy, which was developed in 2014, needed to be updated to fall in line with other national policies locally, regionally and internationally. She said they attempted to update the policy in 2020 but were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and over the last 2 years by natural disasters, including the eruption of La Soufrière volcano, which tested the entire national system. Forbes said the review of the disaster management policy is needed to ensure that a solid document is in place going forward with input from all stakeholders.
No, this is a national policy. This is not NEMO's policy. It's a national comprehensive disaster management policy, utilizing a Caribbean homegrown model, and will be facilitated by one of our own experts in the region, Mr. Jeremy Collymore. And I want to thank Mr. Collymore for working with us during the past 2 years when he presents the genesis of the whole CDM policy, you will understand why he was chosen, and why I gave the World Bank a little trouble sometimes to ensure that we had somebody who was chosen to actually who understand the context of the region and our country. This is our first major activity for 2023, and this policy is going to set the context and set the program for our activities this year. We also hope to commence the update of our National Disaster Plan. We know it is long overdue. It was since 2005, and we have, as I said, we have gone through so much in the last 2 years that we have to review this plan to ensure that it's fit for purpose and include the all hazards approach and the new and emerging threats that we are facing here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, compounded by the constant shocks of climate-related hazards.
The consultant contracted by the World Bank to lead the process for the upgrade of the SVG disaster management policy is Jeremy Collymore, who is an international disaster risk management and resilience advisor. In his address at the opening ceremony of the consultation on Monday, Collymore noted that over time a diversity of hazards have impacted the island's economy, some more severe than others, highlighting a correlation between disasters and development.
Now, I look at the 22 financial budget, and you will see quite clearly here some of the implications of these consequences. For example, the current account deficit was $50 million. I'm not sure, I suspect these are EC dollars, as a result of COVID and the volcano. The total public debt was $2.1 billion, increased as a result of COVID and the volcano, and $880,000 was related to house construction and repairs. Similarly, we have $50 million to respond to the volcano in relation to general operations, and $10 million for low interest housing funds for the farmers, and $5 million for the fishermen. So, do you agree with me that if you want to talk about development in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we need to manage disasters? Yes. Okay, so we have agreed on that. Consensus. One thing I also started to pick up, and I was doing this research some years ago, was that there seem to be some particular areas in the country that are repeatedly impacted by these events. I don't know if it's my misperception or misdocumentation, but these areas identified seem to have repeated experiences. And maybe in a conversation you can ask me why, or you could probably tell me why.
Collymore said it is important that we start understanding better and connect hazards and their consequences to policies, not only at the national level, but also sector engagement, sector leadership, and community engagement.
So this CDM policy is really pivoting back to this development policy and this interconnection which the Prime Minister has clearly articulated. And it provides that groundwork, really, for connecting legislation, policies, strategies, etc. The point may become very evident to you very soon that you cannot do much in disaster management, much in development planning without thinking of disaster, as well as education, infrastructure, etc. And it makes the point that Ms. Forbes implied, that really disaster management is everybody's business. I will almost say, hallelujah, amen. Well, let's accept that. So the Comprehensive Disaster Management Framework, initially developed by SEDIMA in 2001, and last updated in 2014, I think it's on a review process now, speaks to this issue again, all inclusiveness, all phases, all people, all hazards, evidence-based, multi-level, multi-sectoral, and interdisciplinary. What facilitates this? That's the big question. Resources and capacity. So we have to ask those questions when we are looking at really designing the program. Are the resources adequate? Is the capacity adequate? What is the process and the culture of planning and implementation in the country? Because if we are not connecting to the local realities, we are really getting very theoretical.
Consultant urologist Dr. Rohan Dishong is urging more males in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to get tested for prostate cancer. On a program on VC3 last evening, Dr. Dishong said that there are too many males that view the procedure to be homophobic. Dr. Dishong said that he would continue campaigning to have free prostate testing done across St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Men who would want to accept a finger test because men are so homophobic because they would prefer to have a woman put a finger, gloved finger to examine their prostate than a man, because somehow they feel that if a man examines their prostate, that, I don't know, maybe it might make them gay, Teresa. Do you think so, Dr. Jordan? I mean, I've always been amazed at men who say, Doctor, come in now, but I don't want a test. Yeah, Doctor, I don't want a finger test. A doctor coming but afraid of finger test, because we have an intrinsic homophobic response to the rectal examination.
And we need to work on that. We need to,
yeah, because women don't have a phobia to a pap smear, and the only thing they tell you, the instrument might be cold. But generally they will go and get it done, unless that woman has some issue with anything going up in that area. Most women go and gladly submit themselves to a pap smear. It is an infinitely more uncomfortable examination than a rectal examination, honestly. Because if you see the position women have to be in, the length of time, it's like looking up into the woman's soul. And then the doctor takes a little spatula and she scrapes a little bit of mucus from her, and they have to wait to come down. Men is essentially 5 seconds, the most 10. You can come from 1 to 10 or less and you're finished. Not with women, but still women go in their droves. 20 years later, I still have men who give me the crappy story, but they don't want to go because of that. It's just
on the issue of breast cancer, General Consultant at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital, Dr. Erica Jordan, stated a few symptoms that can be detected by doing at-home breast examination, such as breast lumps and blood from the breast ducts.
Be aware that there are different forms of presentation of breast cancer that are not the breast lump. 1, bloody discharge from your nipple. No, it is normal for you to have a clear or a milky discharge coming from several breast ducts when you squeeze your breast, especially depending on the time of the month in premenopausal people. That is, persons that have not gone through menopause. They're still actively seeing their period. You may have a milky discharge or a clear discharge coming from your nipple, depending on the time of your cycle. But when you find that you have a blood-tinged discharge that is coming from a particular area of your breast, continually, you need to be aware that there are different forms of presentation of breast cancer that are not the breast lump. 1, bloody discharge from your nipple. No, it is normal for you to have a clear or a milky discharge coming from several breast ducts when you squeeze your breast, especially depending on the time of the month in premenopausal people. That is, persons that have not gone through menopause. They're still actively seeing their period. You may have a milky discharge or a clear discharge coming from your nipple, depending on the time of your cycle. But when you find that you have a blood-tinged discharge that is coming from a particular area of your breast continuously, that is a cause of concern. If you have retracted nipples or change in your nipple, everyone doesn't have the same nipple. Some persons have very flat nipples that only become erect when you stimulate them. Some people have big, perky nipples, for lack of a better word. But you need to get to know your body, because when you notice changes in your nipple, the nipple being withdrawn, the nipple pointing in a different direction, it is not becoming as erect as it usually does, that can be a sign of a breast cancer that's directly underlying the nipple. An axillary breast lump. Majority of persons are unaware that our breast tissue extends into what we call the armpit region. So sometimes you do not find a lump in your breast, but you may feel a lump under your armpit. It may not be cancer, however, it is associated with an early warning sign of cancer, because some breast cancers present as an axillary lump and not necessarily a lump that is within what we consider the breast tissue.
Dr. Jordan further expressed to females across St. Vincent and the Grenadines to get early screening, noting that cancer is treatable at an early stage.
There is always more that can be done to improve the care of cancer patients because medicine is advancing and there's always something newer and something better that can be done to help your prognosis. However, my greatest difficulty here in St. Vincent will be getting adequate screening, as Dr. Deschamps said, and it is not the availability of the test. It is getting individuals to make the conscious effort to go and get their screening done. There are certain pillars that I like to use when I relate to breast cancer or any other cancer. Know your family history. Know the warning signs of the cancer. And we spoke about breast cancer and we didn't even have time to touch colorectal cancer, which is one of the other leading cancers here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Know yourself, get to know yourself, get to know what is normal for you, especially in females doing your monthly breast examination. Every month, just after the menstrual cycle, examining your breast and getting to know your breast, so any alteration, any abnormality, anything that is wrong, you are able to pick up. Getting to know your bowel habits, getting to know your body, getting to know what is normal for you in terms of the colorectal cancer. Screening, early screening.
In other news, Kira Bullock has emerged the winner of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College essay competition. Bullock, a second-year student pursuing her Bachelor of Science in Nursing, earned $500 for a winning submission. Ariana Jardine from the college's Division of Art Sciences and General Studies claimed the $300 second place prize, while Gregory Hull, also from the Division of Arts, and Deanne Williams from the Division of Teacher Education tied for third and were awarded $150 each. All entrants received certificates of participation and the SVG Community College branded items. Students were also asked to write on the topic the importance of accreditation to a post-secondary institution. The SVG Community College recently relaunched its bid for accreditation and is currently conducting an institutional self-study under the theme Rooted in Introspection, Growing for the Future. Let's ace it. And some 31 female entrepreneurs here are set to receive grants to enhance their businesses at a ceremony tomorrow. The grants totaling $243,000 from the government of the Republic of China and Taiwan will be dispersed at a grant award ceremony at the Kingston Baptist Church. The recipients were selected after they completed the third and final cohort of the Women's Empowerment Project SVG, which was executed by the Taiwan Technical Mission through the Center for Enterprise Development, Inc. It is part of an initiative entitled Assisting the Economic Empowerment of Women in Latin America and the Caribbean in the post-pandemic of COVID-19. The objective is to boost the country's economy following the impact of the pandemic and maintaining social stability by strengthening women's economic empowerment through employment and entrepreneurship. The grant award ceremony, which will begin at 10 a.m., will be addressed by Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology Camila Gonzalez and Taiwan's ambassador to SVG, His Excellency Peter Charling Lang. The third cohort of the Women's Empowerment Program ran from August to September last year. The final activity for this project will be the business plan competition, which will see 10 finalists pitch into a panel of judges on Friday, February 17th, 2023. 3 of the finalists will win $26,000 each.